Kia ora everyone, and welcome to this month's Tech Bytes, where I get Craig Young, CEO of Tuans, get to sit down and just have a chat with someone that's a digital leader in New Zealand. And today I'm thrilled to be talking to my friend and colleague Lee Timutimu. So kia ora, Lee. You're a very busy man with all the things that you have in hand, and over the years, apart from your day job. And so would you mind introducing yourself a little and what you're involved with now?
Yeah, kia ora, Craig, and thanks for the opportunity to have a kōrero today. I really appreciate it. I am a man of many pōtaiao hats, and I guess currently I am the founder of Te Matarua, the Māori Tech Association. I'm also a co-founder of Te Hapuri Matiuko, which is a community for all Māori working in digital and tech. I'm also the co-founder of Ko Maui Hangaro, which is a rangatahi tech summit that's been going for about 5 years now. So, basically my jam is I work in the advocacy and I guess leadership space within the Māori DT community, and it's something that I've fallen into, I guess, over the years by default, but it is a responsibility that I take very seriously. And I'm sure we'll unpack a little bit more of the story behind that in a wee while. So I was born and raised in Whakatane, but I currently live in Hamilton with my wife and 4 kids. Just in terms of my background, career-wise, I've worked 20 plus years in IT, primarily the IT support services space, which I've enjoyed. The last 7 years I have been an entrepreneur, so running my own tech company, and so that's kept me busy as well. So yeah, heaps going on.
Oh, awesome. Well, can we go back to the beginning? Because I like to talk to leaders about their journey as the way through, and everyone has their story on how they get through. But as a young Māori tāne, what encouragement did you get to go into a tech role? Basically, what got you started in that space?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and something that I share the story quite a bit when I'm out and about in the community, just talking about the work I do, but also where I started. I actually randomly fell into IT, believe it or not. So at high school, I was fairly academic, but I was sort of focused on the business subjects, so accounting and economics. So I had no interest whatsoever in digital or technology. This is going back some years, of course. And I definitely did not see any pathways at the time. I was a young lad. So I fell into IT through radio broadcasting, is the short version. Yep. So I come from a radio broadcasting background. Took on some administration operational roles within that, and moved sideways into tech from there. Started out systems admin type work, then moved into the IT support services space, answering phones, fixing computers, desktop support, and all that kind of stuff. And I found a real passion for it because it combined my love of people, creating relationships, interacting with human beings, and also my love and passion for helping people. So helping them solve problems was something that I was really interested in, and so I basically went from there. So it's not your atypical pathway, I would say, and the only comment I'd make on that is, yes, it was a kind of a haphazard, random way of falling into the tech sector. There weren't many role models or Māori at that time. This is going back 25 years now. So yeah, it was pretty lonely space, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that shortly.
Well, that's fascinating because I did accounting and economics at university. I'm a chartered accountant, did it for 18 months, realised it was really boring, and got into IT and telco. So there's some similarities there. Let's delve into that a little bit about, you working as a young Māori. You said there weren't many there weren't many for you to look up to. What was it like working in that sector as a young Māori when you started?
Yeah, so visibility was pretty poor in terms of other Māori in the space in the sector at the time. This is going back, well over 20 years now, and although things have improved in terms of representation of Māori in the tech sector, I think the latest digital skills report says that's increased from 4.1 to 4.8% Māori representation in tech at the minute. Still woefully underrepresented, of course, but I would say back then when I was just starting out, it was worse. There was probably a handful of Māori that I knew of, like
Right.
in New Zealand, that were working in IT roles as well, and we all know each other
Yeah.
today, which is pretty cool, and it's pretty cool. But definitely wasn't enough Māori back then. I couldn't really say why, but again, if I was to look at my experience, I didn't really have the opportunities or potential career pathways into digital and tech when I was a young'un. They weren't really presented to me in high school, so I didn't really know about them. And I think we've made some improvements in terms of showing our apunga Māori or our Māori students today into that DT world, and also pathways into digital and tech. But a lot more work could be done. But back then, mate, there was very few of us. Very few of us. In fact, like I said, I could probably name them all on one hand. Like that's how severely underrepresented it was back then.
So then, you get into this stuff. As you said, you fall into it. So then what does a journey look like that takes you from an IT support person to being an entrepreneur, founding a number of Māori tech focus groups? And can you just talk us through, some of the important decision points that happened along the way?
Yes, I think as a starting point, I think acknowledging and connecting into the attributes that my ancestors possessed. And I didn't really know about this stuff, certainly not back early in my career. And what I mean is my ancestors were traditional navigators. They used the stars and the oceans and the environment to navigate the Pacific highways, and that takes some level of technology and innovation and even disruption in the way they think about problems and things that they're presented with to enable them to have the confidence to go out into the Pacific Ocean and wayfind. So I didn't really think about that in my younger days, but now that I'm a little bit more mature and I've had a bit of experience working in IT, I now see that actually I'm just really emulating what my ancestors were so many generations ago, and that they were definitely technologists and innovators. They knew how to create not only leverage the technology of the time, but use innovation to improve on those technologies. And so today we use computers. It's really just a different type of technology, but for the time anyway, for now. But really just leaning into that the characteristics and attributes that I've received from my ancestors through my genealogy and DNA is a really powerful almost discovery for myself, because like I said, I didn't really think about those things when I was younger. I didn't even really know DT was a thing or that it existed. I certainly didn't know that there were a career or job pathways in tech that could are well paying, should I say? And even today, it's far better in terms of pay and whatnot. So I think a couple of key milestone events in my pathway through tech anyway. I've worked with corporates before. I think I got to a place maybe 10 years ago where I felt, this is not really, I'm working for an organization or corporate organization where their values and beliefs don't necessarily align with my personal values and beliefs. And not just as a Māori, not just as a Māori person, but as someone that holds community as an important part of the work I do, both personally and professionally. So I decided, well, I can continue working for an organization that where our values just don't align, or I could go off and do my own thing, right? So this is where the entrepreneurial leap occurred, and that's going back maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Founded my own tech company and sort of got into digital storytelling and whatnot. So that was kind of the first leap, I suppose, and I went off and did that for about 6 or 7 years. And then about 3 years ago came another sort of milestone moment for me, anyway, personally, which led me into the leadership and advocacy mahi or work. And that was I had a I think it's okay for me to share this today. But I had I guess a public disagreement with NZ Tech, and as we know, they're the organisational body that represents largely the tech sector in New Zealand, and so that kind of we came through that experience and came out the other end, myself personally, and I'd made the decision to found some group, some advocacy Ropu, because I wanted to be a part of something. Now, understanding that we haven't had something like that, like the Māori Tech community hasn't had a group for some time. I think the last attempt at bringing us together was the Māori Digital Forum, which was shelved, I think, pre-COVID, maybe 2018. So, and me wandering around and as an entrepreneur, traveling the country, not only trying to develop and grow my business, but also meeting with my peers in the Māori Tech community. So having conversations with those people, informal and formal. I did that for quite a few years, and then I realized, hey, we don't actually have something we can jump on. Like, we don't have a group that we can turn to or subscribe to or buy into so that we can start supporting each other, because that was organically but informally happening anyway through the process that I was doing, traveling the country and whatnot. So I made the decision, 2 years ago now, to found and form Te Matarua, the Māori Tech Association. So that was a pivotal moment for me personally, because that then more or less by default dropped me into a leadership role. So I often refer to myself as a reluctant leader. I'm not the person that's in the workshop or room that puts their hand up to take the lead of anything, to be honest. I'm an observer, very analytical, but I'm also I like to support other people to empower them to do what they need to do. So that's where I found myself in a position of leadership, Craig. And so kind of just went from there, and obviously founded a couple of other communities over that time, which I've already mentioned. So I guess haphazardly fell into that leadership role too, Craig. I definitely didn't plan for any of it. So,
well, let's talk about that. Those specific issues in the tech industry at the moment, and the one that we're keen to work on together. I mean, we know, and you already quoted the skills report. The sort of research that we have around the issue of lack of skilled staff in all areas of digital tech, and not enough women, Māori and Pacifica. So what sort of things do you think we as individuals, and then I'll ask you about the organisations, but let's start with individuals. What can we do as individuals to improve the situation?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question, and it's an interesting one for many reasons. But I think for me personally, anyway, my personal opinion is, I think we as individuals need to decide what side of the DEI, or digital inequity and inclusion side of the fence we stand. We stand. Do we stand on the we are committed to empowering DE&I, generally speaking, in our communities, and then obviously within our organisations or our businesses, or is it not really something that we buy into? And that's fine. That's actually a decision. That's not really important to me at the moment. I've got other things to focus on. So I think we have to make that decision as individuals. What side of the equation do we sit? Because that's going to determine and then inform how we move forward. And that's personally, but also into your community, and then into your organization and job, workspace. It kind of has to start from inside of you, I suppose. from a very humanistic, basic point of view. That's my opinion. So I know where I stand, and I live and breathe that every day. I'm trying to empower our Māori communities within the Digitech space, but that could easily be applied to the wider Māori communities, not just DT. So I know I'm focused on that today, but it's something that I could easily and then sharing the experience and insights that I've gained, I guess, or had the privilege of gain over the last several years, working in my community, close with my community, and sharing those insights and experiences with other communities like our Pacifica Tech community, our Women in Tech community, and being able to share and collaborate is also an important part of empowering communities. So relationship building is a big thing to me. It's of all the skills and attributes that I possess, I think that's the one thing that I could pick out and say, this is what I hang a lot of my passion and energy is in that relationship building. And it's very important, as you would know as well, with the membership behind you, supporting the work that you do with 2AN. So, and also community, and then community building obviously is important as well. And so, there's heaps in it. I think what we can do as organizations, businesses, and even corporates is, again, make the decision where we stand on DE&I, and then make the commitment to implement and action those commitments and policies. Because I've said this before, don't let your policies become rhetoric. Don't allow them to be things that you've just printed on paper or you've just put on your website, and you're not actually proactively putting some mahi into what you say you're going to do, because that's the worst thing anyone can do, let alone an organization, right? And so I'm not pointing anyone out or any organization. I just feel like if you're gonna commit to it, then do that. But then you need to enact on those commitments. It's really important.
And what would you say to an organisation like ours? We're a broad church. We're a users association. We're obviously committed to increasing digital uptake in New Zealand. But if we made a decision to, do some work in this space, and you and I have talked about this, how do we ally ourselves with organisations like Te Matarua? Where do you start on that sort of stuff, rather than, because I want to create something new?
Yeah, I think you and I have discussed this actually, and I think within that conversation we've already had is the solution, and that is reaching out, engaging, and creating a relationship, right? So that's meeting with leaders within certain communities. So you and I have met, and that was on your prompt actually. So I give you your credit for reaching out and taking steps to actually start nurturing and creating relationships, whatever that ends up looking like. But honestly, particularly within Māori and Pacifica communities, establishing that trust relationship takes time. More importantly, coming together in person is also important, and we did that. I remember that. So these are things that I appreciate, but also within Māori communities, we appreciate people coming to meet with us, to have a kai, to have a cup of coffee and that sort of thing, because it means so much more than just having a call or sending an email and saying, hey, how are we going to get around and how can we support, and all that stuff. So I guess your actions, and I'm not saying you, but the way that we interact and create those relationships, especially at the front, is so very important. So I would say to anyone that's wanting to sort of engage with Māori and Pacifica communities in particular, take the time, understand that it will take time. If possible, do get out and go and spend some time for kai and kōrero and have that chat, because that's the first step, really. It's the first step in creating a long and enduring trust relationship, which is something that is really important in our culture. And hey, it's not a cultural thing anyway, is it? It's like it's a human thing.
Yeah.
Like if I want to connect and engage with some person or someone or some organization, well, I would expect that I'm going to go out and take the time, make the effort, and it shows that you're genuine and serious about creating some sort of relationship.
Well, let's talk specifically for a moment around some of the work that you're doing in digital equity. We know some of the mahi we've done together. We know there are several groups of people that are struggling to get online, but with Te Matarua and the other things you've got going, what are you involved in, mate? What are you doing? What specific things are you and those groups doing that's making an impact in this space at the moment?
Yeah, I think most importantly, we're creating a familiar space for our community, for our people. What do I mean by that? It's creating a culturally safe community, a place that we can feel safe to be ourselves, to represent ourselves, no matter what work we do within the digital technology spaces. So it's really around creating space. It's around, yes, it's advocacy and leadership, but it's about creating space that is safe for our people to just be themselves, because we hear there are challenges with Māori in particular that are working, or even Pacifica for that matter, but Māori that are working in sector that find a lot of these corporate systems and environments culturally unsafe. Now that's a challenge in itself, and it's actually critical to the ongoing success of Māori that are looking to enter the tech sector, right? So it's one thing to pathway Māori into tech, into a job. It's another thing to keep them there, to retain them, to keep them safe within that environment that often is not really feels safe to our people. So I think Te Matarau and Te Hapori Matiko are really just creating those environments for our people to buy into, to become a part of, to feel a sense of belongingness, and to feel a sense of community and connectedness. And these are all critically important things to our culture and to our people, in the way that we then support each other, the way that we collaborate with each other on any number of work or initiatives or what have you. So there's not specific streams of work. That's what I'm trying to say. It's really just creating space where our people can go and exist and be themselves. Often when they're trying to operate in a system that's not actually safe for them.
Yeah, cool. Ka pai. Well, just a couple of things to finish up on. Let's go broader to finish on. I always ask this question of every digital leader I talk to in Aotearoa. What? So asking you to look across the whole ecosystem now. What big ideas should a country like ours focus on if we want to move up that digital competitive ladder?
Oh, this is $1 million question, eh, Craig?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
which is a hot topic in itself. But I really, honestly, I'm not. I really find it difficult. And this is a conversation I have with myself all the time, by the way. I really find it difficult to think too far into the future when there's so much challenging us today, I guess is the question. So I'm not actually answering your question, but to me, it just really affirms that we have so much to do today for us to be in a position in the next, especially our next generation, for them to be able to take us into the future. But we kind of can't get too far ahead of ourselves, especially the Māori community, because one, we lack representation in the sector itself. We need to increase that. So if I were to say what's the big picture thing for me at the moment, it's increasing, bottom line, increasing the number of Māori that are in DT.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's been, as usual, Lee, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to have this kōrero with you. It's a fascinating time. I mean, we're talking today when the final writs will be returned on the election, so we'll know today who's the government is, and then we're going to find out what shape it's going to come into, who's going to be the ministerial decision makers, all those sorts of things are ahead of us before Christmas as well. So, look, are there any last comments or thoughts you'd like to share before we finish up?
No, I think just coming back to the digital equity, I guess kōrero. I think it's something that you and I are really strong supporters of empowering communities, all communities, by the way, in terms of digital equity and really putting a lot more work into decreasing the impacts of the digital divide. And so affordable internet connectivity being one challenge that our communities face, particularly our lower socioeconomic communities. But I think ultimately, for me, as a community builder, as a relationship builder, I think it's really important for key players within the wider ecosystem. So there's the 2ANs, there's the Te Matarua, there's the Te Matarua, there's the NZTEX, there's the ITPNZs, there's the whoever else. It's really important for us to collaborate where we can to ensure that we're doing work today that's going to support the next generation of Kiwis coming through, and so I really strongly feel that collaboration is key to solving a lot of the community, the nation's challenges, but also collaboration is key across the ecosystem, particularly with the partners that are playing in that ecosystem, so that we're all headed in the right direction. And I think that's something that I always think about when building partnerships and relationships with others, is really how can we work together to empower or amplify the work that we're doing individually, but also to ensure that we're headed off in the same direction. I suppose it's probably my last comment.
Okay, all right. Hey, thanks so much. I always appreciate your wisdom and the mana that you bring to all that we do together. And it's a joy to have you, particularly in front of our people sometimes, and I'm sure that will happen again, and we'll look to do things again. So I think on that note, we'll end this month's Tech Bites, and we'll look forward to chatting to you again, Lee. So mā te wā.
Kia ora. Thanks, Craig.